Hello, my name is Dan and welcome to my polytunnel here in Essex in the southeast of the UK. So today I'm going to be making a video and I'm going to show you some vegetables that you can plant out at this time of year. So in the case of this video today, these are going to be planted out here in the polytunnel. I'm going to go through how I'm doing it and hopefully you can learn from this video. Before I get started with this video, if you like this content, please feel free to like it. You can share it with anyone you think may be interested. And if you'd like to be notified of any further videos I put up, please feel free to subscribe. The first vegetable in question today is broad beans, otherwise known as fava beans or faba beans. They are rich in fibre, antioxidants, they contain vitamins B and C, and they are said to have potential benefits for those with Parkinson's disease, something called L-DOPA. So very much look into these. Now these are variety Aquadulture Claudia, which are generally the variety that is recommended for overwintering in a climate such as the UK. I have here red Mizuna. This is rich in vitamins A and C and also contains antioxidants. The next vegetable we have here is lettuce variety Winter Gem. So this is a little gem style lettuce, and lettuce is rich in vitamins A, B and C. It's also said to have benefits for cognitive decline and also have benefits to help you sleep better. So that's absolutely wonderful. So lettuce here, Winter Gem. Here we have spinach, which is rich in fibre, vitamin C, iron and antioxidants. So I'm going to plant some broad beans in this bed here in the polytunnel. Now I've enriched this with some mulch I made in some ton bags earlier in the year. I'll link that video down below. You can see how I went about doing that. I put it on here and it's fast turning into some beautiful compost full of worms and hopefully a nice strong nutritious growing medium for strong plants and hopefully nutritious food to eat. So that's absolutely wonderful. So the broad beans are going to go in here. Now I'm going to plant them about a foot apart. So a foot is about 30 centimetres, something like that. You could go a little bit wider than that apart if you wished, but about a foot in the case of what I'm doing here. So this here is some homemade compost I made in some compost bins, and I'm just going to top up here. I want to make sure that my plants have as much nutrition to grow in as possible. So broad beans, they like a well draining growing medium. They don't want to be sitting too much in too much moisture. So if you live in a very wet area, you might be better off waiting until the spring before you either plant your broad beans, or you even might not want to overwinter them when they're small like this. But either way, these are here and they're going to go in here like this. So just going to plant them something like this without disturbing the growing medium too much. So one problem I may run into here is broad beans generally don't like to go much above about 24 degrees C, which is about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. They don't like it too warm. So if we get a warm spring, that could indeed happen here. I want to keep ventilation good, so we're right by the door here, so I can keep that open. Got vents in the polytunnel as well, but that certainly is a risk I'm willing to take here. So if you're planting these outside in the open ground, in fact, generally when I plant broad beans out that have been grown like this, I don't like the plants to be too big because strong winds, rain, snow, etc. can damage them. So this here is a really good size to plant them out at. So one here, and I'm just going to put one here as well. Going to top up a little bit more here with some more of my growing medium like this. And just tuck that in like that. Absolutely lovely, and these should produce some lovely broad beans next year. So this variety of broad bean, Aquadulture Claudia, as well as said to being one of the more hardy varieties of broad bean, they're said to have some degree of resistance to black fly, but I'll let you work that one out for yourself. So they can get about a metre tall, which is about 3.3 feet. They could even get about 1.5 metres tall, which is just under 5 feet. So they'll be very interesting indeed, but really excited to see how they do here. If you're planting them outside and they're about this size, if you live in an area where you've got wild animals, for example, that might eat them, you could consider protecting them, maybe with something like a cut off a lemonade bottle or drinks bottle, something like that. If you've got it, if you're living in a very blowy area or where there's likely to be lots of snowfall, you could consider building something around it, like a little compound to help protect them. And you really want to protect them if you need to, because it could be very disappointing if they get eaten, damaged or whatever. I can't say whenever I've overwintered broad beans I've had problems with pests eating them, but of course it can be different if you live in a different location. I'm now going to plant out my Mizuna here. So I initially planted these on the 2nd of September in these cell trays. I'd like to have had them planted out a little bit earlier because the days are now relatively short. They will get shorter, the temperatures are colder, and growth can come to a slowdown or indeed even stop. But so there we are. We have to deal with where we are with our gardening, where we are at the time, don't we? So these are going to go in here. I'm going to put them about 6 inches apart, which is about 10 centimetres. I'm going to borrow some of my own homemade compost here. Once again, the ground here is very mulched, so they're going to go in like this, nicely planted out like so, and I'm expecting these to do very well. I really like Mizuna, nice tasting. So many oriental greens actually bolt if you plant them too early in the season, but this is one of those that's actually said that you can get a summer crop of these if you plant them in the spring without them actually bolting. So that's interesting. We could look into that, and I may indeed do so next year. So Mizuna in there nicely like this, should be fully hardy around here, and hopefully they'll be of a good eating size by about the springtime. Next up, we're going to go for the winter gem lettuce. So these are a hardy lettuce bred for winter growth, so these are going to go in here like this. Once again, nice enriched growing medium, about 6 inches apart, something like that, 10 centimetres once again. So you can see very much what I'm doing here is using my available space. So it's going to be some time before the broad bean plants make a good size, so until then I want to make sure I keep my ground productive. So a little bit of planting here, and once again, these probably won't grow too much during the winter period, the same with the Mizuna, but when the weather proceeds to warm up in the spring, I should have an absolutely lovely load of early lettuce to eat. Next up, we have the spinach. So this was initially planted on the 2nd of September. So this is going to go in here, once again, 6 inches, 10 centimetres apart, something like that, and this should do really well here. So if I didn't have this polytunnel to plant this spinach, Mizuna, and also the lettuce out, I could consider a cold frame. Now, I wouldn't want to plant these out in the open ground too much, so I may consider it if, you know, it was a particularly mild year, but who knows if that's going to happen, or if they were in a nice microclimate, for example, up against a south-facing wall or fence. But in general, greenhouse or a cold frame is great for overwintering things such as, you know, later plantings of Mizuna, spinach and lettuce as well. So look into that. Once again, you want to make sure you protect it from your local pests. So if for whatever reason you were going to plant these outside, you could consider protecting them, once again, like what I said, with something like drinks bottles cut off or some form of protection like that. But so cold frames can be really lovely actually, particularly, you know, if you don't have a greenhouse or a polytunnel, because you can get the benefit of that microclimate for a fraction of the cost and with a relatively simple construction. So there we are, all planted out. Hopefully we'll be very productive and yield some nice nutritious food. Still yielding aubergines. This is variety check early. So what I'm trying to get over in my videos is make sure you've always got something to eat. Have your planting successional, so you're always yielding some nice crops, maximising the use of your ground, you know, getting yields from things whilst you're waiting for other things to come. For example, when the temperature warms up, the lettuce, the spinach and the Mizuna will be in productivity before the broad beans come into productivity, and then when that lettuce and that comes out, I can then put something else in that space. So really what you're doing is you're keeping a cycle going, you're building the soil quality, adding the nutrition, yielding your crops, and you're keeping it working like a well-oiled machine. And that's basically how I look at gardening as a whole, really. But anyway, I'm starting to lose the light now. If you've got any comments, questions or whatever, please feel free to post those below. Let me know what you're planting out or what you're planting at this time of year, and I shall see you in the next video. If you like this video, please feel free to like it, share it with anyone you think may find it interesting and or helpful, and if you'd like to be notified of any further videos I put up, please feel free to subscribe. See you in the next video. As always, thanks for your time and enjoy your weekend.